Hey guys, welcome to the 75th C programming tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be looking at converting strings into integral and floating point data types. So we're going to be doing the exact opposite of what we did in the previous tutorial. So let's just go ahead right here and create a string. I'll just call it my string, and in this string I'll just store a number. So I'll store like 582. Alright, so let's just go ahead and convert this string into an integer. So we're just going to say int I equals, and then we're going to be using a function called a to I, which stands for ASCII to integer or alphabet to integer. So a to I, and then this function just takes one parameter, and it's just the string that you want to convert into an integer. So we're just going to say my string. So basically what this function is going to do right here is it's just going to take the number out of this string and store it in this integer. It'll leave this unchanged, and it's just going to just take this 582 from the string and then store it in this integer variable right here. Alright, so after it converts it, we're just going to go ahead and print I out onto the screen. So printf mod I, since we're printing out an integer, and then we're just going to print out our integer variable called I. So when we run this, we should just get 582 out onto the screen. And yep, we do. But let's say that after the number inside of our string we had some other junk, like 582 is my favorite number. Let's run this again and see what happens. And we get the exact same output. So basically what this a2i function does is it starts wherever this points to. So this character pointer just points to the beginning of our string, and it just starts here and reads number characters until it hits something that isn't a number character. In this case, it's just going to be a space, so it stops reading and takes those numbers that it's read in and returns them as an integer. Before, when we had nothing else inside of our string, when it just sort of ended, the character that it hit after this 2 was the null terminating character, so it just stopped and returned the 582. So it makes no difference to this a2i function whether or not you have a null terminating character after the last digit in your number, or if you have some other string like that. It doesn't really matter, it'll still return just the number. But let's say that our number was in the middle of our string. So let's say we had I like 639, something like that. Well, let's run this and see what happens now. We get 0. So my string right here is just a character pointer that points to the beginning of our string, so it just points to this I. Well, the a2i function just read one character, it saw this I. Well, the I is not a number character, so it just returns 0. Now, how do we grab this 639 out of our string? Well, what we have to do is basically make it so that we pass through the address of the 6. So what we're going to do is we're first going to get the index of the 6 inside of our string. So the I is at the index of 0, the space is at the index of 1, the L is at the index of 2, and so on. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so the 6 is just at the index of 7 inside of our string. So 7, and then we just have to get the address of this 6 right here. So we just pass through the address of my string at the index of 7. Alright, so let me just go ahead and close this program and rerun it. And there we go, we got our 639. Now, let's just say that we wanted to convert the 639 into a long. So we'll just say long L equals, and then we can use a function called a to L, which just stands for ASCII to long or alphabet to long. And then we'll have to change this down here to a long int, and this is our new variable called L. So when we run this, we should get the exact same output, and we do. And let's say that we wanted to convert this into a long. So long LL, and then we could use a function called a to LL, which is just alphabet to long. Change this to a long int we're printing out, and this is our new variable LL. So we run this, and once again we get the exact same output since we didn't modify this string right here. Now let's take a look at converting a string into a floating point data type. So let's say that inside of our string right here we just have some floating point number like 8.35. So let's just go ahead and convert this string right here into a float. So we're going to say float f equals, and then we can use a function called a to f, which just stands for alphabet to float or ASCII to float. And once again, this function, like a to I, just takes one parameter, and that's the string that we're going to be converting into a float. So my string is the string that we're converting. So after this function runs, basically what it's going to do is just take this float from the string and put it into this float variable called f. So after we call a to f, we're just going to go ahead and print out f. So I'm going to say printf mod point to f, so that we only print out 2 digits after the decimal point, and then we're just going to go ahead and end the line and print out our float variable called f. And when we run this, we should just get 8.35 out onto our screen. So we run this and we get 8.35, perfect. And let's say that we just had a $sign in front of this 8.35. Well, if we run this right now, we're just going to go ahead and get 0 out onto our screen, since the first character inside of our string is just a $sign, which is a non-number character. So what we have to do is go ahead and give it the address of the first number character, which is just our 8 right here. So we have to say at the index of 1 and then the address of that. So now we're just passing in the address of this 8 right here. So when we run this, we should just get 8.35 out onto our screen, and we do. Alright, so that's pretty much it for directly converting between a string and an integral or floating point data type. But now we're going to be looking at a function called sscanf, which is the exact same thing as fscanf or just plain old scanf, except instead of reading from a file or reading from the console, we're going to be reading from a string. So we're just going to go ahead right here and create a string called str and just set it equal to for 5 eggs it costs, and then we'll just say some value like $8.94. Alright? So now basically what we want to do is we want to grab the 5 from this string and we want to grab the 8.94 from this string. So in order to do that, we're going to be using a function called sscanf. So we're going to say sscanf, and then this function, the first parameter of this function is just the string that we're going to be reading from, and we're going to be reading from this string right here, str. So str, and then the second parameter is just going to be the format, and our format is just going to be for, and then some number of eggs it costs, and then some value. So a $sign, and then we're going to be reading a float in, so we need to say mod f, and we're reading in a float. Alright, and I actually just have to add another g right there. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to create an integer variable to hold the number of eggs, and we're going to create a floating point variable to hold the cost of this number of eggs. So we're going to say int egg count, and we're going to say float cost. Alright, so the first parameter after the string right here is just going to be the address of the integer variable that we're going to be storing the egg count in. So the address of egg count, and then the second parameter is just going to be the address of the floating point variable that we're going to be storing the cost in. So the address of cost. Alright, so basically what this sscanf function is going to do is it's going to go through this string right here, and it's going to take this number 5 right from this string, and it's going to put it in this egg count variable. Then it's going to go right here to where it says mod f, and it's going to take the float from this string and put it in the floating point variable called cost. Alright, so after this sscanf function is ran, egg count should be 5 and cost should be 8.94. Alright, and basically now what we're going to be doing is we're just going to go ahead and calculate the cost for 1 egg. So we're going to say printf for 1 egg it costs, and then we're printing out just a floating point variable, so point to f, end the line, and then we'll just go ahead and calculate the cost for a single egg. So it's just going to be egg count divided by cost. Alright, and we'll just go ahead and cast egg count as a float, make sure that it calculates it correctly. So now when we run this, we should just get the cost for a single egg. So we run this, and we get 56 cents. So for each egg, it just costs 56 cents. And if we wanted to, we could go ahead and add in a $sign right there, so that it looks like a cost. So we run this again, and yeah. So for 1 egg, it costs 56 cents. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial, so see you guys.